Welcome to the Redeem Vision podcast. I'm your host, Steve Pokorny. This is an outreach of the Freedom Coaching, where we are found at freedom-coaching.net, where we're working to help liberate both men and women from the bondage of pornography and unchaste behavior. It's an honor to have you here. I encourage you to go check out freedom-coaching.net for all the work that we're doing there. We not simply working with clients, but also some of our writing, our videos, getting access to podcasts like this. And I encourage you also to like, to share, to hit the bell if you got that option there, as we're discussing some very important topics that need to get out to the world. Some housekeeping items. There's one of our sponsors here is called Voyage Comics, and a lot of media out there, especially Christian media, has been oftentimes subpar products. They don't really jive with, I don't know if jive's the right word, but I'm going to use it anyway. It doesn't appeal to a larger audience, a wide audience. So there's some amazing stories here that are very much rooted in the Christian faith. Anyone can pick up and enjoy. So parents, is definitely safe option for your kids. So you can discover a world of awesome stories, and it helps to support the Redeem Vision podcast when you click on the link below in the show notes. Also, for this work, something that helps this work and many other works to go forward, this is the part of the Freedom Coaching Foundation Incorporated. It's a nonprofit that funds that come in, supports scholarships for clients who couldn't afford our services full on. And we want to make sure that if there's someone seeking freedom, that money's not the thing that keeps them from that. Okay, so any of your gifts will go towards that, goes towards funding projects like this, some of our writings, and also potential conferences that may be coming up in the future. So you can click on the link right on our website, freedom-coaching.net, where it says donate to help us with our growth. So in this, want to pull out some ideas here, because we live in a world that God created it. It's beautiful, and there's a lot of good here, but we also know that there's an enemy who wants to take down this beautiful world. And one of those creations are our children, right? And our children are one of our most precious gifts. And without children, there's not the future of humanity. And so the conversation we're going to be speaking about today is going to be very personal, very intimate, but also providing some answers and options, and what we can do about some of the issues going on in our world today. And I wanted to introduce to you a young lady by the name of Laurie Row, who is a wife. She's a mother. She's a risk professional, and she has been a passionate advocate for children. And I think this is why Laurie and I have been able to connect well. Actually, truth be told, this podcast, we tried to record it a little bit ago, and technological problems. And we like to say in Freedom Coaching, if there aren't technological problems, well, it's not Freedom Coaching. And I think it was simply a pause to this conversation, because everything's all systems are go right now. And I believe it's going to be a real blessing. So whatever wasn't supposed to be said or was supposed to be said, well, we'll see. We'll chalk that up to lost time, but we'll chalk this up today to something very special coming to you. And Laurie has been defending, has been protecting children, has been beginning as early as age 10, which is very fascinating. And I want to hear that part of our conversation as we get into it. In 2016, her volunteer work began with Operation Underground Railroad, now known as O.U.R Rescue. They were helping co-chair fundraising events and raise awareness to the heinous atrocities of trafficking. And currently she serves as one of O.U.R Rescue's state ambassadors and supports awareness and fundraising events for Southern Texas, right here where I live. Last year, she founded Just One Child. It's a child trafficking and exploitation prevention nonprofit organization. The organization works collaboratively with individual volunteers and organizations to educate parents, provide necessary resources, and advocate for greater accountability by schools to protect students accessing school electronics. Laurie is hoping that through the efforts she's leading, parents and youth will both have the knowledge and skills to identify grooming attempts, know how and where to report predators, and prevent them from becoming more victims. And you can discover more of the work that Laurie is doing with justonechild.safe.org. And without further ado, Laurie Row, welcome to the Redeemed Vision podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
An honor to have you. And yes, as I mentioned, hopefully it looks like our technology we're a go here. And as I mentioned to you, and I know it gets to be frustrating. As G.K. Chesterton, an old writer from the early 20th century, would say, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. So this interview, this conversation is definitely worth doing. So I'm really glad that we were able to work this out and be here. So Laurie, what I want to do is I want to take it back. I want to go back to kind of the beginning, because as we like to say, it's usually some of our wounds, some of our hurts that rightly redeemed are some of the greatest healers for ourselves and also for those that we encounter. So as much or as little as you're willing to share, right? Let's just share a little bit of just your background. Kind of what was life like growing up that made Laurie Laurie?
Well, I think first off, my parents would probably say I was very stubborn, very determined. And that has served me well, because I've always, when I come up against a challenge, or somebody says you can't do this, it's always, well, watch me. It may not be pretty, but we'll get it done. And that I've taken into this fight, the passion of just one child. There's a lot of no's. You hear that often. And knowing that there's a reason for this, knowing that there's value in it. It's one more time when I'm like, just watch me do it. So for a long time, and I don't know really where it came from. I've always been an advocate for children. I don't know if it's from my upbringing, really wanting to be protected by a parent and oftentimes not feeling that protection. So I don't know if it stems from that. I don't know if it's things that I saw in my lifetime. I don't know where it came from. Maybe it was that gift that God gave me and I was to develop it. But I've just always been that one in the store when the kids are crying, late at night, and the parents, yelling at them. And I'm like, well, if you have them in bed where they need to be, I'm always that one that's going to stand up for the child. Because kids rely on adults. They're taught to look towards adults. They have that innocent love and trust, and they need to have safe place to be. And that's what I want to do, is to provide that safe place when maybe they don't have it elsewhere, or where they should find it, it's not there. Then they need somebody to come in to protect them.
Yeah, beautiful. And Laurie, I didn't even check with you. How many children, physical children, do you have?
I have one child, and we'll probably talk about her later on. And then I have a couple stepchildren.
Great. So what screams across with what you just shared is that mother's heart. I love it. And so thank you. Thank you for that, and a little bit of the background. So we mentioned in the introduction, something happened when you were age 10. Right, something that, or maybe it was before age 10, if you want to go earlier than that, but that would move you into kind of the area that you're in today. What happened?
Well, it was really this. I think this is when I really realized that I was an advocate for children. I remember, and I was about 10. I remember my mom was sitting in the kitchen with a friend of hers, and I don't know why I was there as well, probably just hanging out. As a kid, you want to be around your parents or things. But I remember looking out the front window, and running down the street was a schoolmate of mine that lived across the way. And behind him, his dad was chasing him with a 2x4. And
whoa,
the adults just sat there.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is wrong. And luckily we had a police officer that lived adjacent behind us. And so I ran out the back, jumped the fence, and ran over and called the police. They came, took all the information and stuff. But at that point I realized, okay, I have I get involved. I'm not willing to stand by and stand on the outskirts and not get involved.
Yeah.
And that's, I think society today, a lot of times we don't want to get involved. We don't want to be involved with the mess. We don't want, but kids need us to. They can't protect themselves. They need us to get involved.
If it can be said, I would add to that, if we don't stand up for the most vulnerable, who is going to?
Right.
And as the old quote goes, that they came for the Jews, and then they came for the evangelicals, they came for the Catholics, and then they came for me, right? If we don't speak up, right? And I don't know if it's of that level of the Holocaust by any means, but it's really serious, right?
Yeah.
So again, that mother's heart is very, very present, and it's beautiful. And in here, right? And thank God it's the notion of, when we've used in the era of terrorism in the last 25 years, right? And then when you go to big cities, when they have subways, if you see something, say something.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same notion here. And I want to say to all our listeners here and viewers that it's not a matter of, this is not about living in fear. That's not what we're trying to be about, but it's an awareness here,
Mm-hmm.
right? That because I remember, like, growing up, Laurie, I would my elementary school. I walked to my elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like probably a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles away. My mother's so cruel for making me do that. No, I'm building my legs, right? She was horrible. Well, no, she wasn't. Like, I had to go, and just often, it's time to go to school, you go, right?
Right.
But now fast forward, and you remember those times, right? It was free.
I walked to school. Yeah, I walked to school. We lived at one end of town, and school was at the other. Yep.
Yep. And now I think we as parents, we hear a lot of these horrible stories of abductions and things going on, and we start to think, oh my gosh, literally right now. And I think there's this conversation in my house that has not been resolved, right? One of my daughter has a friend that goes around the corner. It's probably 14 houses down. Okay. And we're in a subdivision. It's not a gated community. And like, she won't walk down the street, right? Well, it has to be picked up, or we have to drive her. I'm like, really? But with the situation, so that's a negotiable feature, right? And so there's no judgment here to whatever you as a parent decide, but we live in different times, right?
Well,
and I think
I think that's the challenge today is how do you live in the world, which seems really scary, but yet have a normal childhood?
Yeah.
And you can't bubble wrap your children. You can't, close them in and not expose them. And then, they turn 21, 18, and you go, okay, now go off and go out into public. You've got to find that balance. And that's the challenge. And, and that's one of the things that we talk about is you put the safeguards in place, you do what you can, but you also have to let them out. And it's tough.
So actually, let's go there, because this is interesting, right? How do you as you're talking to parents, how do you let your children out with the nonsense and nuttiness of our world? How would you practically? Let's go there.
Well, for one, we grew up. I'm going to show my age here. Grew up in that stranger danger white van, guy at the park, that kind of thing. There's less and less of that now. Does it happen occasionally? Yes, it still does. But I think that's where a lot of our fear is somebody's going to snap them off the street. That doesn't really happen. Where you're seeing it more is happening right inside the home, on the internet, in gaming consoles. People don't have to go and snatch anymore. They just need to connect. And the internet has provided a perfect medium for that. If you've got an account, a social media account, and you can reach out and talk to somebody, that's all it takes. So the idea of not going out or protecting your child, there's more fear in putting them in front of a computer than there is them going to a park.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said for that. And Dr. Nicholas Kardaris, if I have his pronunciation correct, for the book Glow Kids, recommends kids shouldn't be on screens until age 10, and phones not till 14 at least, and social media is even 16 or 18, right? So certainly something to be said about that. So it's like, I think there's parents need to not be ignorant of the things going on here, not be oblivious, right? Pay attention to what's going on there. But on the flip side is where I like to take the perspective is I don't want to simply raise good kids or even good adults. I want to raise saints, right? I want to raise those for the kingdom of heaven. And but part of the point to get there, eventually they're going to have to leave home. They're going to have to go there. So age appropriately, and so and Laura, like, we'll get more into practical guidelines. I'd love to see that you can share some of these nuggets of the wisdom that you've had over the years of working in this arena. But I think it's going to be a basic thing is you're going to know your child best in a certain sense. Be aware, but using your mama bear homing beacon, shall we say, if I can use that language. I'm not a mama bear. I don't pretend to be one. I'm just a grizzly sometimes, grizzled old man right now, or growing there. And but with this here to help you pay attention to that sixth sense that you have, right?
Yes.
What's going on here? If something's funny, something's off, then we gotta ask some more questions. Get curious about this. Don't just push that down, because we believe that God works through our consciences, and especially has given us the rightful authority to guide to guide His children who happen to live in our house, who happen are under our set here, but ultimately are not our own. And so we need to help to guide them to ultimately be those citizens of heaven that they truly are, right? So
that's one of the things that we hit on in our presentations, is listening to that instinct, trusting it. You've been given it. Everyone has it. And the worst thing you can do is down the road go, why didn't I listen? Oh, I wished I would have. But it's that little in your gut or in the back of your, the hairs raised on your head, whatever it may be, listen to it. And we stress that in our presentations all the time with parents.
It's great. It's beautiful. So let's bring this up closer to present day. Just One Child, right? This is an organization you work with. And actually, hold on one second. I want to back up even before I go there. You mentioned O.U.R Rescue, formerly Operation Underground Railroad. How did that come about? How did you get involved with them?
Well, that is really what led me to all of this.
Okay.
My daughter was about 10 at the time, been issued Chromebook through school, which a lot of kids get those these days, with the recommendation to use certain chat rooms for school to connect with other students. There was one night in the kitchen, and I hearing these ping, 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 pings. My daughter was in bed at the time, and I'm like, oh, this is weird. It's late. And so I looked at the electronics, and there were these chat notifications. And so I look at them, and to say I was shocked would be an understatement. There were cartoon images of what I now know to be grooming, explicit images that I will never get out of my head, and conversations with kids that were very graphic. And so I took that to my police department in the town that I lived in. They referred me over to the school officer. The school officer referred me back to the police department. And so here I was. I didn't know how to protect my child. I knew that it was wrong. I knew that it was an area that I didn't know a whole lot about. And I was told to report it. That's what you're taught. If you see something, say something. And I did that, and there was no support and help. And it was devastating feeling that. And I know I did a lot of things wrong. When we first, we did the reactionary thing, which was take all electronics away, all of that, which creates even more, a gap between you and your child
Mm.
instead of
Mhm.
opening, communicating, which we thought we were. But again, I learned a lot that I did wrong. But we found that her friends, who she, tearfully we were destroying her friendships.
Mm.
We did just a little bit of digging and found one of them was a 56-year-old male that was 2 states away.
Mercy.
One was a 19-year-old girl in Hawaii, and another one was a boy out of California that we couldn't, or a male out of California that we couldn't find a whole lot of information on. And these were all individuals that she thought were her age, that were students like herself. And so that was my first exposure to predators, to grooming, to this whole world. About that same time, I was introduced or met Matt Osborne, who has been part of O.U.R for years. And he was leading their undercover jump operations at the time. And spoke with him, expressed that I wanted to find somewhere where I could support kids and support the safety of them, and shared my experience. And so he put me in contact with the local volunteer group. And so that's how I got involved with them. I would say my education began then, but it hasn't stopped because it's always changing. This is an environment that, as fast as the internet changes, trafficking and their approaches and their schemes change.
Wow.
And a lot of people think trafficking is the physical, and they're surprised when I focus in on the internet. And that's because over 80% of trafficking begins through internet chat. And so if we can start there and start to protect kids there, we've got a better chance at protecting them from later on.
Yes.
Trafficking, the prostitution, or whatever else that may get into.
Yeah, if I can use, and by analogy, but it's more than an analogy. Again, with the work we do in freedom coaching, we're working with those involved with pornography, attraction, compulsion, to break that attraction. And we would love to not have you as a client. I'm trying to you're trying to work yourself out of a business. Okay.
Right.
I publicly say, I just want to become a gardener full time. Like, please.
Mm-hmm.
God's clearly made that clear that that's not how it's going to be until maybe the internet goes down. Right. So from here, right, your work is incredibly necessary, incredibly needed. But if we can prevent a lot of these problems, let's do this. And I just think that a lot of it's ignorance. Maybe it's some of it's willful ignorance. My kid's in the honor roll. My kid would never do anything wrong like that, right? And my kid's a boy. He wouldn't be involved with any of that stuff, right? Well, we have to start asking some questions. Again, it's trust but verify, I think, is right. the right one there. So you were involved. Go ahead, please.
Well, I was just going to say the other thing too is our kids could be great kids. I had a fantastic child. She is still amazing. I keep saying I'm not quite sure what I did to deserve her, but she's an amazing kid. But it's the predators, and they're the ones, they know to look for these kids. They've got all the time in the world. And so it's not that our kids are bad. It's that the people that are coming after them are, and the kids are not, they don't have the mental capacity and the development to understand the ways that they go about manipulating them. And, and so they're vulnerable that way. And the predators know that.
Yes. And so again, it's I'll bring it back to the Garden of Eden, right? Where with Adam called to defend Eve, called to keep his eyes out on the horizon of what's going on there, right? And the sad reality, it's not simply out there, it's now in our homes, right? And this isn't to say, and we want to make this very clear, technology is a good. We can use technology for good. Laurie, I think this is a constructive conversation, and you and I are not in the same home right now. So we're using technology, and it's finally working, thank God, right? Right? But we have to be aware of what's going on here. And remember, our children's brains are not fully developed till mid-20s. And again, our brains continue to grow with the neural pathways. So our job, especially as fathers and mothers, are to continue to guide that. And then obviously the ones that we entrust education to, with our educators, with police and fire, with like even our senators and congressmen,
Mm-hmm.
they have a duty also to stand up to defend our children, because this is the world in which they live. Very important. So moving from here, you're working with Our Rescue, and then you decide, it's time. I'm gonna start this own project, because I don't have enough going on in my life. Right? I'm bored. You start
that I never.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Said no mother ever. What made you make this jump?
The biggest thing is, every time I would do an event and you'd bring awareness, and it was fantastic to see, people would get excited about this new knowledge and want to do something about it. They, how do I protect my child now that I'm aware of this? What do I do next? And I continued to research and look for something that I could point them to or guide them to additional learning or training or something. And I just wasn't finding it. There are fantastic men and women out there that are running rescues and aftercare programs and homes for survivors, things like that. And I don't want to put down their work in any way, because it is so needed. But I just felt like, as a parent, I knew how I felt when my daughter became exposed, and now what do I do? Where do I turn? I didn't want anybody else to go through that. And the more I looked and the more I researched it, I just couldn't find anything that would partner with parents to give them the tools that they needed. And so that's where this came from. That and honestly, God telling me that if you can do something, you better do it. Because, I will tell you, I do not want to face him after this life and go, I could have helped maybe a child and I didn't. Yeah. I just can't live with myself with that. So as uncomfortable as sometimes going out and speaking is, as uncomfortable as reaching out and having people say no or whatever, or trying to navigate this world of nonprofit, what's more important is being able to say, I've done everything that I could do. I've done my best. And maybe, just maybe, keeping a child safe from becoming a victim. Yeah, beautiful. That's what drives me.
That's beautiful. And I'm big into Christian music. Music motivates me. I think I'd rather be blind than deaf, even though I really like seeing. But like the one song that's coming to my heart as you're talking is a song by Matthew West. Do something. And it's the line, like, I look around the world and I see all these problems. God, why don't you do something? And then he says, I created you. Right. I created you. And I think this is that line, right? Yes. Could God do anything? Could he eviscerate evil like that? Yes, he could. But in whatever providence, and this is one of the themes of our work here, Laurie, is this notion that nothing is irredeemable, right? And he wants us to participate in this work for whatever reason. For each, like I like to say with the work that we're doing, why am I the founder of Freedom Coaching? Because he couldn't find anybody worse, right? Okay, I'm not saying that you're the worst one for just one child, but here we go.
All my flaws, I admit them, and that's what I say. I made mistakes all along, but I'm hoping that from my mistakes, people can learn that there's, there are better ways, and it's continually a learning and growing process.
Yeah. And maybe, some people got to learn the hard way. That's this guy right here. Right. And I think this is encouraging though, right? Because all of us have our flaws. And I think in the quote unquote Instagram, TikTok world with all these filters, I think everything's gonna be perfect. And I'm speaking especially to fathers and mothers here, that it doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to drop the ball here, but there's a lot of grace here. That's one thing that we believe here. So yes, learn from the ones who made mistakes. I'll put myself in the ring, and Laurie, if you want to throw yourself in that ring also.
I'm in there.
Right, come on in. The water's warm, and we're not. And trust me, that pool ain't empty. So, but from this, right? And you got to laugh about this stuff because it's fun.
Yeah.
But what it's fun to a degree, right? Afterwards. But I think from that, to learn from those mistakes, but also know that even if we are going to make some mistakes in raising children in these things, that, I think we're going to make it okay. right? But we have to. There's certain principles we have to follow that especially in navigating the electronic medium, the technological landscape that we find ourselves in, because it's, as you mentioned, it's evolving and changing, and there are people who do not have your family values at your heart.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, like you say, you keep trying, you keep going, and it's amazing that even if you make little efforts, what God can do to magnify those. Because I have found that there's a lot of no's, but every once in a while there's a yes, and it's an incredible yes. And there have been doors opened, and people have offered to assist and help along this path that I still look back and go, okay, how did that happen? Well, I know how it happened, but I know where to attribute it to. But if I hadn't been trying, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to open that door. And so I think that that's part of, you do what you can, and you leave the rest to him to guide it.
Amen. There's an old Jewish proverb that says that the Red Sea did not part until that first person took that first step. Right. And then miracles happen. And that's what I think you're seeing, certainly in the work you're doing, of the people start to follow, right, those who put themselves out there, right, that they're genuine and they're real. And so I think that's what's happening here, which is beautiful. I want to go to this area here. Just one child.
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you pick that name?
Honestly, when I was thinking about the work that we were doing and what we were trying to accomplish, two things came to mind. One, when I talk about I talk about the board. There's a couple other women that we've all had some exposure to exploitation or trafficking, and so we all come from a place of wanting to help kids. But it's that all of the work that we're doing, all the efforts, even if it's just one child is helped, it's been worth it. So that's where the just one. And then the other thing that I kept resonating with me is I kept thinking about how Christ would leave the 99 to go find one, and how important that one individual is. And that really, that's how we feel, is that even just one, just one being helped and not being a victim is all worth it. Every bit of effort, every bit of trial that we're going through, it's all worth it for that one child. Yeah. And I know as a parent, if somebody were to think that of my child, how much I would, my heart doesn't have enough to appreciate that, and I think that we as parents, we think about and even just one child, if you have just one child or whatever, that how precious they are. And so, we hope that we help more than one, but we'll take one.
Yeah, it's many viewers and listeners to this conversation. And again, we're speaking with Laurie Row of Just One Child. The starfish approach, right? I didn't get all of them, but I got this one, right? And there's Saint Mother Teresa said it's not about being successful. It's about being faithful. So are we being faithful to what God, the mission that God has put here, right? And then there are those who get inspired by our work that, hey, I want to link arms with Laurie Row. I want to get involved with Just One Child, because what they're doing is incredibly important, and it's local here. And just maybe, like, that's the other thing, because maybe you're not in Texas, South Texas. Good. I don't know why you're not in South Texas. That's a side note. But perhaps you're weird and you're somewhere else, right? And we're Texan and we know what we're talking about.
We'll accept all.
We do. We accept all. We do. I mean, yeah. Anyway, we won't go. We're trying to win people over here. So from here is maybe there's nothing like this going on in the sense of organizations that can help here. maybe God's put this on your heart. Maybe you have been personally impacted. Maybe someone you know in your neighborhood's been impacted, and you don't know anybody really involved here, right? So maybe you need to look around. Maybe there are organizations to get involved, but maybe it might be a call. Okay, I need to step up, right? What can I do here? Because everybody's got a gift, and this might be your calling. Just a thought here. So let's get specific here, because we talked in generalities of just one child. So how do you operate? How does just one child operate? How do presentations go on? How, if somebody is interested in getting education for their school or whatever, what does that look like?
Well, we prefer to do in-person presentations. So right now we are keeping it fairly close to the South Texas area. However, we will do Zoom presentations, but I know from myself, and really this is based on my own experiences. When I was going through it, I would have loved to have had somebody that I could reach out to and say, hey, I need help, or go and get some additional information. So we do in-person presentations, whether they be ones that are open to the public, whether individuals want to get a group together of their friends, we'll come and do presentations that way, or like I say, Zoom. We are growing our volunteer base, and so what we will hope to do is expand. And as you were saying, if you don't have something in your area, we will work with volunteers and help them get comfortable, help them to identify their why for getting involved, because I think that that's important to be able to share why this mission is important to you. People understand that and can hear that, and then help them to understand some of the basics of trafficking and how to identify the grooming. I mean, that's the easier part of it, but we will work with individuals to grow this into their communities as well.
Awesome. So I'd like you to see if you're willing to go here. So what would be expected in presentation? Do you have multiple types of presentations? What does that look like?
We do generally for parents, it tends to be a general overview of what is grooming. What are some of the techniques that are out there and the schemes going on? What are the red flags to look for? And then what are some of the parental controls and barriers that can be established in your home to put a barrier between your child and the predator? We have been working on trying to develop a technology one that helps parents. The problem is how quickly those apps change. So we're looking at maybe a different approach to that, and looking for some technology folks to maybe have a hands-on where parents can bring in phones and things, and we can have tech folks help them establish some of the safety features and stuff on them. Because a lot of people, myself included, I don't really understand all the technology, especially as quickly as it's changing.
Yes.
It's not my area of expertise. And so I rely on other people that have that. And so we want to bring that to the parents so that maybe you're not tech savvy, but hey, come to one of these and we'll do some hands-on stuff so that you get a little more comfortable. And that's really what it is. It's helping parents build the tools that they need to protect their child, whether it's understanding the apps out there, whether it's understanding how your phone works and the technology to turn on those safety features, whether it's knowing where to look for some of those hidden things, or whether it's just how to spot it in your own child. Those are all things that we cover. If somebody has a specific area where they're concerned, we will try to work and build a custom presentation for them if they wish.
So you said something really important, and I'm going to paraphrase, and again, Laurie, as we've talked about, right? My job is a connector. I'm really good at connecting, and then I want to get out of the way, and you guys can work this through. And maybe this becomes some sort of a tagline or something along one of your presentation, because I love this idea, what you're talking about, of building the tools to help guide your child's, and I'd like to add this is my own stuff, safely in the online environment, right? So building the tools, because what this is yes, it's a workshop, but it's much more than that, right? That you're taking this and immediately going back and bringing this to your children, because we can have a lot of fun and do a lot of good things online. For instance, my kids are obsessed with Studio C. If you don't know what Studio C is, you should probably check it out and laugh your heads off. Okay, it's clean comedy, but like it's the amount of time they spent on there. I'm thinking about some of the episodes and I'm laughing right now because it's fun, right? But also, I'm not going to give them carte blanche to a phone, right? just go search on YouTube, because if, for instance, if you click one wrong letter there, you're stepping off sometimes off the dock, shall we say, into this deep sea that's really cold. If you don't lose the, keep with the metaphor here, right? And then you're in swimming with sharks, and it's a big problem, right? So and if they haven't been taught what is a shark, and B, how do I swim in that shark infested water? And this isn't to say that we go seek out that, but what if we happen to be down that way? But if we have never been taught, especially as children growing up, I mean, this is the reason why I got nailed by pornography. No one ever discussed this. No one ever had the bigger conversations about human sexuality and what does it mean to be a male? What is a female? Who is female? How do I interact there, right? All of that is human formation that, and as good as the technology can be, that can't replace that, right? But this technological discussion, I think, is really, really important. So and I'm just thinking off the top of my head, Laurie, where I'd love to see this go, is to partner with some technology companies, even some of these, like trying to think if they were advisement companies, things like that might be able to come in to partner with them. You're going to just advertise. The agreement is, I'm going to advertise the work and your work, and you're going to give a presentation on the individual things. I think that could really work well going forward. Just a thought there. I love that. I love that building part. And let me ask this: in the presentations that you've been given, what have you seen? What's been the feedback from parents?
Most have been surprised. I would say that would be the initial, is the realization of how easy it is for predators to access their children. That's the first thing. And then we tend to look at whatever the area is where we're doing the presentation. We will go out and just Google and find headlines. And it's an awareness that, it's happening in your neighborhood. It's happening in your town. Because a lot of people don't want to see it, and so they don't see it. And then there's that light bulb that clicks that goes, I need to do something. And so that's really what we try to do, is leave them with the tools that are actionable, that they can immediately go home and you're saying, start having conversations with their kids. We have a form that we provide in some of ours that's those open-ended conversations, what to ask your child, how to talk to your child, because some parents don't know how to do that. And so here's some tools and here's some takeaways that you can, if you need to read it, you read it, but at least you're starting those steps and you're moving in the right direction. And so it's giving them those tangible tasks or activities that they can immediately implement.
Beautiful. So let's get practical, because we have a couple minutes left. Top 2 or 3, again, doesn't have to be the best ever, but top 2 or 3 pieces of advice. If you were starting out one of these conversations with a parent, what would you tell them?
Starting a conversation with a parent?
Starting with a parent. So if you like top 2 or 3 pieces of advice as you're discussing with them about this.
One would be have controls in the home for electronics. One, there should be no phones, no computers, nothing in the bedrooms. You'd be surprised at how quickly a child can get into that underworld. It takes seconds. So have them out in public view. The other is know who your kids are chatting with. Know who's on the friends list. Know, and teach them to be good online stewards. Teach them how to investigate a profile to know whether it's real. And then just open communication, talk to them. If we try to take things away, and not in a punitive, but take them away to protect them, that child is still going to see it as being taken away. So if your child comes to you and says, hey, this is what somebody said, or this is what I've been shown, as much as it goes against our nature as a parent, you have to go, thank you for trusting me. And because you trusted me, I'm going to trust you to be able to still have that electronic and keep this dialogue going and know that you need to navigate away from there. And that's a tough one. I want to bubble wrap and protect, and but it's not going to go well, because then that creates a new vulnerability that child now feels alienated from their parent. And where are they going to turn? They're going to turn to that listening teenager or fellow student who's actually an adult trying to lure them in.
That's so well said, Laurie. I would the thing I would add, or I'll add one piece in a second, but it's along those lines. If Jesus couldn't convert everyone, what makes think you could? What makes think that you're going to do that too and raise perfect children, right? So it's along those lines. As our kids are growing up, and maybe they make some lifestyle choices that you don't agree with, right? They're doing some things, some behaviors that you don't agree with, and there's a danger perhaps of what we are wanting to do is to shut things down, or like, okay, if you're not my way or the highway, and I would say that would be a great mistake. The truth, what we want to do, what we're built for, is relationship, right? And so what we want to do is keep the floodgates open of communication, shall we say. That's the floodgate there, not of the sewer, but of the floodgate. And because if we shut things down for that connection, they're going to connect with, as you mentioned, connect with somebody who is doesn't have what's best here, or connect with some of their friends. And the friends, in many cases, aren't getting this education at home. And so, hey, you should get involved with what I'm involved with. And it's actually a doorway to a place you really don't want your children going, right? The other place that I would recommend to parents, I saw this years ago, was for anyone to do a search on this for mom gives son 18-point iPhone contract. It's a hilarious article, kind of hilarious, where basically for Christmas, she gave her son an iPhone, but with this 18-point contract there of what are the expectations of how they're going to use that technology. Now, again, you're the father or mother in the home, right? But something along those lines, this is an agreement with you. And number one on there was, this device is mine, right? A, you're probably going to break it and you will buy it. B, or a third one, you're going to probably lose it, and then we'll negotiate how to get it back to you, right? Some of those practical things, because our children want to know practical ways to moving forward, but I think also educating the parents so that they can help to their children to live under the principles and standards and values that they have as parents. I think that's incredibly, incredibly important. One last thing I want to drive into, and I think we talked about this before we got on. There's something that a program that you're developing called parental control sponsorship, or basically maybe that's the understanding of that. I don't know if you have a name for it, but can you talk about that, please?
Yeah, one of the things that we teach is using parental control apps, and the importance of them in helping as a parent, because we're busy. We don't always know all the technology, but there are apps out there that can be put on devices which allow parents to take control, to determine the content, to decide the time frame or the schedule of when their kids can be online and not online. It allows a view into the text messages and the phone calls and what's being shared. Now, some would say, well, that's an invasion of privacy, but you know what? We're here to protect our kids, and as long as it's an open conversation, they know that I'm putting it on there. They know that it's for their own safety. I am for the parental control, because it allows you to know what's coming at your child, and puts that door between your child and the outside world or the predators. And I don't know anybody that doesn't want some barrier there. So what we've been doing is, what we're working on is a program that would allow scholarship for individuals who may not be able to afford it. They run anywhere from $150 to $200 a year approximately for some of them. And so we're working on a program where those that may not be able to afford, which means the kids are more vulnerable to trafficking,
yes,
because of the home that they may be in. We want to be able to provide that to the parents. And so that would come from funding from individuals that would help sponsor that. And it would be sponsoring a child for a year. And it's for a home, because the couple of the organizations that we're looking at trying to partner with offer unlimited devices within a home. So
Awesome.
all the devices across all the kids would able to be protected. And this is a one step in multiple steps, but it is an effort to start to provide that to the parents.
It's fantastic. It's fabulous. So again, you're hearing it on the Redeem Vision podcast. It's a great place to send your dollars to be able to help directly impact parents to guarding and guiding their children, so their children can make better choices here, especially in technological use. And Laurie, I love it. I love it. What's going on here, and I'm sure obviously we'll have updates moving forward in the future with the work you're doing. So, if any final word here, what would you share with parents here regarding technology, or any message that with the work that you're doing?
Well, I think one thing I always want to leave any conversation with telling individuals that if somebody has become a victim, there is hope. There is help out there. We are the prevention. We are trying to stop it, but we know that it can happen. And so National Missing and Exploited Children have a website that you can go to. They have a hotline. They also have a text messaging. But if you go out to the National Missing and Exploited Children, they can help. If you have content that's been shared, there's a website, Take It Down. If the child is under 18, they can help get it removed from the dark web. They can help get it removed from the internet. So the point of that is it's not hopeless. It's not, a lot of kids will think, well, now that it's happened, there's nothing I can do. There are people out there that can help. And so I try to leave that with parents, that there is hope. The other is keep communication. Communication is a critical piece, and not only between parents and children, but also among other parents, because we need to feel that we're not alone when it happens. We need to know that there's a community out there that supports. And the only way to do that is to start talking about it and to get it out there. And so those are the two things that I think are really important to remember is communication and hope.
That's really well said, because I think we can take the ignorance approach, or we can take the educated approach. And what that'll do, education empowers. And in this way, to say, like, we're not alone in this battle here. That the monkey is out of the Pandora's box, shall we say? It's not going back in. Technology is a part of the world we're doing here, and our job now is about navigating this. And again, it's not something we stand pat at. We have to keep up with what's going on here. And I think this is where organizations such as Just One Child can really help with navigating these waters effectively and safely. So, Laurie, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to learn more, get involved with Just One More Child?
Well, obviously, go to our website, which you've got posted, and I appreciate that. So visit our website. You can drop us a line there. You can email me directly at laurie@justonechild.ngo. There's that is available. We've got our phone numbers on there. Basically, if you go to the website, they'll have all the contact information. So that's the easiest way. And if you're in the South Texas area, we'd love to come visit you and meet you in person. But, one of our things that I always say, and I'm tying into what you just said, our approach is we want to empower the parents, protect the kids, and break the cycle. Because it's only by breaking the cycle that we can stop the trafficking from being the issue that it is. And, the numbers are horrific. Yes. The numbers out there are staggering as far as, it's a $250 billion industry that's growing every day. And it affects way too many people. There's over 500,000 predators online. And so we've got to protect our kids.
Did you say 250?
Yep. 250 billion.
So it's not 150, because I heard 150, 250
billion growing. And it's just, and again, the predator thing is the crazy thing to me. Over 500,000 predators online at a given time trying to get your child.
Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. So my heart hurts for these children who are being impacted by this. But Laura, I'm also encouraged the fact that you're standing in the gap. Right. And that, what was the three line phrase you just used?
We're empowering parents to protect children and break the cycle.
Awesome. And that's on your website, I hope.
Yes.
I hope.
Yes.
Good, because that's marketing, that's sticker value, that's t-shirt. I love it. I love it. And it's because incredibly important. Laurie, thank you for being one of the good guys. Thank you for standing in the gap. You're very welcome. An honor to know you. And you're close to where I live, so I'm sure we're going to meet. And I want to get involved on a local level with what you're doing. But you're very welcome. And so again, for those who did not hear, again, it's justonechildsafe.org. That's where you can get to see the work of Just One Child and what they're doing. And I encourage you. Laurie doesn't bite much. She's very friendly, and we'll certainly would love to talk with you and see how you can donate, see how you can get involved directly with this. And there's no better time than now. And especially this may be no better cause than this one to get involved with that can make a direct impact, that the legacy from this of being able to stand up for these children in this way, it's a huge thing. So do not delay. That's what I would say. So Laurie, an honor to have you here. Just hang on after we bid adieu here, and we'll sum up our conversation. But for actually, I'm going to put me on. There we go. Want to thank all of you for coming and for listening and being present here. Again, it's justonechildsafe.org. I encourage you to check out the work there. And again, I'm Steve Pokorny. I'm the founder of Freedom Coaching. We at the Redeemed Vision podcast believe that nothing is wasted and everything is redeemable. And may everything we do give glory to the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Until next time, God bless.